Predator Hunting Grounds is a game by Ilphonic, which brought you such classics like Ghetto Golf, Sonic Boom, and Friday the 13th the game? And depending on who you ask, apparently also Dead by Daylight. I'm looking at you, Callum Smith. Oh, you updated your page. Good on you. But games journalism aside, this is by far the best game this studio has produced. Friday the 13th is not bad, but it has problems. Problems which I'm not going to cover because, well, this is a Predator review. But Predator Hunting Grounds has a fair share of problems on its own. Before I get into those, I'm gonna give you the gist of the game. The game is an asymmetric multiplayer. On one side is the Predator, and on the other side the Fire Team. The Fire Team consists of up to 4 players, the job of which it is to complete a random mission and shoot AI enemies along the way in a similar fashion to Payday 2. So even if the Predator player was AFK, the Fire Team would still have something to do. The Predator, on the other hand, has to kill all the players on the Fire Team. Each side has a variety of weapons and gadgets to choose from and to unlock. The Fire Team side is pretty basic. A primary and secondary gun and 2 gadgets like a grenade or healing item. The Predator comes equipped with some classic Predator gear. His shoulder-mounted gun and his blade gauntlet, his Predator vision, and last but not least his cloaking ability make up his basic arsenal. There are also a net gun and some other weapons that don't really change things up too much. While the Fire Team stays pretty grounded for the duration of the game, the Predator can climb chosen trees and run along the branches. Some things to note are that the Fire Team can cover themselves in mud to prevent the Predator vision to spot them as easily. The Predator invisibility is pretty well balanced. While standing still, you're completely invisible, but as soon as you move, the invisibility turns into camouflage, which can be seen by keen eyes. Now that I've explained how the game functions, I will go over some points of critique. I will start with things that I believe will not be in the final game and are simply because of early access. Without further ado, here are some problems. Textures popping in, you can't rebind your controls, the graphics options are strongly lacking, the subtitles cover the HUD, you can't choose the maps before the match takes place, constant connectivity issues that throw you out of the game, creating a party with friends doesn't let you play together because one player gets kicked in the loading screen, queue times can be absurdly long, the game allows for one player to queue up with the Predator alone without any balancing to make it fairer, the tutorial can bug out to a point where you can't complete it, and lastly some minor performance issues. I do believe that most of those things will be patched by the time of the release, and if not, they're not game breaking, they're simply really annoying. And now for some more potent issues. The FOV cannot go higher than 90, the loot boxes, which give you only cosmetics and can be unlocked without keys, have a weird problem. They take too long. Once you open a loot box, you have to wait till it is done before opening a new one or quitting to the menu. You cannot interrupt the opening process. The movement is mostly fine, but there are no acceleration curves for starting and stopping, which gives a rather clunky feeling. Aiming feels also a bit weird, but with the lack of options I can't really tell if it's because of not using raw mouse input or something else, but it feels kind of off. Still, playing against the AI enemies is pretty fun. The enemies have enough health to not die too fast and do enough damage to pose a real threat to someone that is standing alone in the open. The game is at its best when you are playing a mission and suddenly hear the classic Predator noise somewhere in the trees. You look around and see some branches moving. You shoot in panic and see something running and disappear into the leaves of the many trees. That feeling of panic, that horror of some unknown entity, is something that this game achieves a surprisingly high amount of. And when you are the Predator, jumping through the trees and spotting your victims with a Predator vision, you don't feel like an unstoppable force. You have to plan your attacks. If you're lucky, you might see someone stupid enough to run around alone, because attacking someone while they are in a group is a sure way to take a lot of damage and maybe even die. That is Predator Hunting Grounds at its best. A game that evokes the feeling of the first Predator movie. The amazing sounds certainly help that. But there are some problems that stand in the way of that occurring every game. One major flaw in the game design is the ability to spot. By pressing E, you can mark something relevant to the mission or just any point to be visible to the other players. However, when you press E while pointing directly at the Predator, you mark him and for a few seconds, the Predator is visible through walls or trees. This one feature ruins everything. It completely shifts the power dynamic and takes you out of the experience. You don't have to carefully look for moving branches and silhouettes anymore. You go from playing a horror game to a shooter with X-ray. This feature also makes another feature completely obsolete. When the predator is shot, he bleeds bright green glowing blood. That, together with the already balanced cloaking ability, are enough ways to spot the predator. But the worst part is that it can completely ruin the game for the player that is playing the predator. As soon as you are spotted, the fireteam could theoretically constantly spot you, so there's no chance for you to even attempt to attack them. Luckily, in the games I played, most players didn't use this ability. I don't know if it is because they didn't know about it, because the game doesn't teach you this mechanic, or because they, much like me, thought it ruined the game. My idea for changing the mechanic to the better would be to simply mark the cardinal direction on the player's HUD when you press E. That would give information to the other players that is useful, but still vague enough to make them be aware of their surroundings. Because that is the great thing about this concept. There's one player that can act out his power fantasy of being the predator, while the others play a co-op shooter with some horror aspects. One addition that would also solve the problem I mentioned earlier about balancing, of only one fireteam player queuing up with the predator, would be, once only one player is left against the predator, to remove guns and other gadgets and items to have a fair fistfight between the predator and the player. That would certainly be in the spirit of Predator, maybe a bit unbalanced or unrealistic, but I'm just throwing ideas out there. All in all, this game is pretty great. I love the first Predator movie, and I have waited a long time for a game like this. I used to play some custom Overwatch Predator game modes just to quench my thirst for this type of game. If you're like me and you enjoy the concept of Predator along with games like Payday or similar co-op shooters, you will certainly enjoy Predator Hunting Grounds. The most fun I had was playing with a friend, and it is great to see a private match implemented so you can battle it out to prove you are the better Predator, provided the game on launch doesn't kick one player constantly as it does now. With all that said, I hope you are as excited for the game as I am. Thank you very much for watching. May Arnold be on your side.